Welcome to Lost Chapters, the place where history isn't just told, it's lived. We dive into the loud, messy, and gloriously uncomfortable past, mixing dark humor, vivid storytelling, and cinematic detail to keep you hooked. Whether you're here to learn, unwind, or drift off to the sound of muskets and mayhem, we bring the forgotten moments of history to life, one restless night at a time. You wake up in 1775, and before your brain can even process where you are, the smell hits you. It's not the comforting aroma of fresh coffee. Nope, that won't exist here for you. It's wood smoke, unwashed bodies, and horse manure blending into a smell so thick you could probably butter it onto bread. You're lying on a lumpy straw mattress in a cramped wooden room, and there's a draft sneaking in through the warped shutters. Outside, boots crunch over frozen dirt, and somewhere in the distance, a rooster is screaming like it's auditioning for America's Got Talent, the animal edition. You push yourself up, and instantly, you know something's off. The clothes hanging on a peg aren't yours. They look like someone took a picnic blanket, sewed it into a shirt, and called it fashion. The window glass is wavy and full of bubbles, like it's been drunk since it was made, and outside, the street is already alive with the shuffle of townsfolk. Men in tricorn hats, women in long skirts, and kids chasing a stick like it's the latest iPad. Welcome to Colonial Boston, the year of brewing rebellion. The city hums with tension. People aren't just living their lives. They're sizing each other up, looking for hints of loyalty or treason. The British redcoats patrol in crisp lines, their muskets gleaming, their faces blank and unreadable. A shopkeeper pretends to sweep his doorstep while sneaking a glare at them. Two men in the corner whisper under their breath, one clutching a rolled-up pamphlet like it's contraband. Somewhere, a horse neighs, and you swear even it sounds irritated about the political climate, and you feel it too, that sense of a storm brewing. Britain, the mighty empire, is treating the colonies like a cash machine, squeezing out every coin they can. Taxes on tea, stamps, sugar, you name it, there's a tax for it. The kind that makes people clench their teeth and start talking about freedom over their ale mugs. And not the hashtag kind of freedom, the pick up a musket and maybe die for it kind. You can tell this place is ready to blow. The streets carry stories. Whispers about a Boston Tea Party where colonists dumped chests of tea into the harbor like it was an elaborate TikTok prank. Rumors about militias training in secret, tales of British spies hiding among the regular folks. Every face you see could be a revolutionary, a loyalist, or someone pretending to be both until they figure out who's winning. A group of kids runs past, waving sticks like swords, shouting, "Down with the king!" You can't tell if they even know what they're saying, but the adults glance around nervously, checking for soldiers. That's life here. The wrong words at the wrong time can get you fined, jailed, or shot, and you're standing in the middle of it, feeling the ground shift beneath your feet. Smash that like button now because this calm, it's not going to last. Things are about to get loud, messy, and very, very American. Your new job? Farmer. And before you roll your eyes like, cool, I'll grow some lettuce, let me stop you. Farming in colonial America isn't a cute cottagecore Instagram fantasy. It's a 14-hour-a-day, back-breaking, dirt-under-your-fingernails grind. There are no tractors, no hoses, no Home Depot garden section. It's just you, a crude wooden plow, maybe an ox if you're lucky, and the faint hope that this year's harvest doesn't get annihilated by weather, pests, or the neighbor's free-range pigs. You wake before the sun even considers getting out of bed. The air is damp and cold, and the smell of manure follows you like an uninvited guest. Your hands are blistered from yesterday, but you've got another day of hacking at the earth like you are trying to win a fight with it. Every rock in the soil feels like it's there just to spite you. You plant corn, beans, and squash in uneven rows, praying the seeds take root. You milk the cow, if she's in a good mood, which she usually isn't at, and haul water from the well, like you retraining for the world's least glamorous strongman competition. If you're not a farmer, maybe you're a blacksmith, hammering away in a dim, smoky shop until your ears ring. Or a cooper making barrels for ale, molasses, or salted fish. Because in this world, everything comes in a barrel. But no matter the trade, it's hard labor from sunrise to sundown, with no such thing as a day off. Even Sunday rest means chores, because the animals don't care about your religious obligations. Food is functional. Breakfast might be a chunk of bread, maybe with some butter if you churned it yourself. Lunch is more bread, some salted meat that's older than a few of the kids in the village, and maybe dried peas boiled into something vaguely edible. If you're really living it up, there's pie, not dessert pie, but meat pie that tastes like regret pie. And forget about sugar unless you're rich. It's imported and costs more than a week's wages. Hygiene? Let us just say you and the people around you smell like you've been on a week-long camping trip with no showers. Bathing is a whole production involving hauling and heating buckets of water, so it doesn't happen often. You brush your teeth with a twig if you care enough. Most people don't. Dental care basically means hope it doesn't rot until the pain forces you to grab a set of pliers and a bottle of rum. And the background noise to all this? Politics. Every tavern, every church, every roadside conversation somehow circles back to taxes and rebellion. You're trying to repair a fence, and your neighbor leans over, muttering about joining the militia. You nod politely, but in your head you're thinking, "Buddy, I'm just trying to keep my goats from escaping." You're not just working for survival, you're working in a powder keg, and sooner or later someone's going to light the fuse. First, you've got the patriots. These are the loud, fiery types who can't walk past a tavern without turning it into a political rally. They speak in passionate bursts, quoting pamphlets by guys like Thomas Paine as if he's the Beyoncé of revolution. They're convinced independence is destiny, and if you so much as hesitate, they'll look at you like you just kicked a bald eagle. They'll tell you about liberty, freedom, and rights with the intensity of someone trying to sell you on a questionable investment. Then there are the loyalists. These folks think the patriots are lunatics. They dress sharper, speak softer, and drop His Majesty into conversation like it's a secret handshake. To them, rebelling against Britain is basically begging for ruin. They trust the king, the army, and the idea that Britain knows best, even if it means swallowing every tax and law without a fight. If the patriots are the punk rock kids, the loyalists are the ones wearing powdered wigs and tutting at the noise. But the most common group? The fence sitters. These are the folks who just want to sell their bread, fix their roofs, and not get dragged into anything that ends with bayonets. They nod along to whichever side they're talking to, change the subject fast, and go to bed hoping tomorrow is quieter. Spoiler, it usually isn't. You're at the market, and the chaos is on full display. A patriot is standing on a crate, shouting about tyranny, his voice carrying over the smell of fish and bread. A loyalist walks past, muttering under his breath about rabble-rousers, and a woman selling apples glares at both of them for blocking her stall. A boy runs between them, knocking over a basket of turnips, and suddenly everyone's yelling about something different. There's drama in every corner. The blacksmith? He's making nails by day, smuggling gunpowder by night. The innkeeper? Secretly sending notes to a British officer because he thinks the rebels are going to get everyone killed. The preacher at Sunday service? Spends half the sermon preaching scripture, the other half calling the king a tyrant. And you're just trying to buy a loaf of bread without getting recruited, accused, or punched. And the thing is, nobody hides their feelings here. If someone hates you, you'll know it. If someone suspects you of spying, you might find your name whispered in the wrong ear. And suddenly, you're on the receiving end of a very unfriendly visit. Words are weapons, and gossip travels faster than a horse at full gallop. So you learn to read faces, to hear what's not being said, to keep your own opinions vague enough that you can slip out of most conversations. But no matter how careful you are, you can feel it. You are standing in a city that is one argument away from turning into a riot. And sooner or later, you are going to have to choose who you stand with, or get crushed in the middle. Night in colonial America isn't just dark. It is the kind of dark that swallows you whole. No street lamps, no neon signs, no glow from a phone screen. Just pitch-black shadows broken by the faint flicker of oil lamps and the pale spill of moonlight when the clouds decide to cooperate. Your eyes strain, your ears sharpen, and every creak of the wooden floorboards sounds like an intruder sneaking up behind you. The air is colder now, damp from the harbor, carrying the smell of salt, smoke, and something faintly rotten. You're lying on your straw mattress, but sleep doesn't come easy. Outside, boots crunch over gravel, slow, deliberate. You freeze, wondering if it's a neighbor heading home late, or a British patrol looking for trouble. The redcoats have a habit of knocking on doors in the dead of night, and knocking can mean anything from pounding with a fist to kicking it clean off the hinges. In the streets, shadows move where there shouldn't be any. Sometimes it's just a stray dog. Sometimes it's a man keeping to the alleyways, hugging the walls like they can make him invisible. People disappear after curfew. Some come back, some don't. The rumor is that spies on both sides are always watching. Patriots keeping tabs on loyalists, loyalists feeding the British names. Even your neighbor could be reporting on you, and you wouldn't know until soldiers were standing in your kitchen. The countryside isn't safer. Wolves roam the outskirts, their howls carrying through the night like ghostly sirens. Bandits sometimes pick off travelers on lonely roads, taking whatever's worth stealing and leaving bodies where they fall. And then there are the militia raids. If the rebels think you've been helping the British, they might show up at night to teach you a lesson. The British do the same if they think you're hiding rebels. Either way, it's bad news. Your house creaks again, and you swear you hear a whisper outside the window. Your heart hammers in your chest. Maybe it's just the wind through the eaves. Maybe it's someone trying to hear what's going on inside. You move quietly, careful not to let the floorboards groan, and peek through the shutters. Across the street, a man in a tricorn hat is standing perfectly still, watching your house. He stays there for what feels like an hour before finally melting back into the darkness. Somewhere down the road, a sudden shout breaks the stillness, followed by the metallic crack of a musket. Then silence again. You hold your breath, straining to hear footsteps, voices, anything. But the night closes in like nothing happened. You realize you're gripping the edge of your blanket so tightly your fingers ache. This is what night means here. Fear layered on fear, broken only by the occasional flash of danger that reminds you how fragile life is. You don't sleep so much as drift in and out, ears tuned for trouble, knowing that one knock, one shadow, one wrong word could change everything before morning. From the muddy streets and candlelit rooms of this fragile colony, something is taking shape. Not clean, not perfect, but stubborn and loud. It starts as a whisper in taverns and meeting halls, in the tight grip of a pamphlet passed hand to hand, in the fire of a speech shouted over the clinking of ale mugs. The idea is simple, reckless, and dangerous, that a bunch of farmers, tradesmen, and shopkeepers could stand up to the most powerful empire on earth and not just survive, but win. And somehow, impossibly, they do. It's not a Hollywood victory. It's not tidy. There are years of bloody fighting, desperate winters, and moments when the whole dream comes within inches of collapsing. People freeze at Valley Forge, ships sink in icy waters, towns burn, families split down the middle, brothers choosing different sides. But the grit is there, the kind of grit born from years of bowing to someone else as crown and finally deciding to stand up straight, no matter the cost. When the dust settles and the ink dries on the peace treaty, this ragged, bickering collection of states calls itself the United States of America. It's broke, it's divided, and it has no idea how to run itself, but it's free. And that's enough to start with. From here, the country stumbles forward, through arguments, expansions, and more than a few disasters, until it grows into something bigger, stronger, and far more complicated than anyone in 1775 could have imagined. The path from colony to superpower isn't a straight line. It's a twisting road paved with ambition, greed, invention, and a stubborn refusal to quit. The U.S. claws its way into relevance, building ships, factories, and railroads, sending explorers westward, grabbing land when it can, and fighting anyone who tries to stop it. Wars are fought, borders shift, and every victory comes with a cost. By the time it's flexing on the world stage in the 20th century, the scrappy underdog of 1775 is gone, replaced by a heavyweight with global reach, nuclear weapons, and a cultural footprint so big it's practically stomping across the planet. But here's the thing. That same messy DNA from the colonial days is still in there. The loud arguments, the suspicion of authority, the endless debates over what freedom means and who gets to have it. America never really stopped being that restless, scrappy teenager. It just got taller, stronger, and better armed. And depending on who you ask, that's either inspiring or terrifying. Looking back, you realize this rise wasn't inevitable. It wasn't guaranteed. It was a gamble that could have failed 100 times over, but it didn't. And that says something about the strange mix of stubbornness and idealism that built it. So if you were there in 1775, poor, cold, hungry, and surrounded by uncertainty, would you have picked up a musket and joined the cause? Or would you have kept your head down and hoped the storm passed over you? History only remembers the survivors. Which one would you have been?